me to really understand and fully picture what the Constitution means to me, I decided on making a timeline for the LGBTQ community dating back to 1969 until the recent years of 2022. After carefully creating and analyzing this timeline, I have realized what the Constitution means to me is the constant lingering worry hanging over our heads, questioning whether we as Americans in this country are we safe. In June of 1969, the Stonewall riots started in New York City. These were the first major protests for LGBT rights in America. Many LGBT groups and organizations began around this time, where they started to fight for their power. On June 28, 1970, it was the one-year anniversary of the Stonewall riots.
It captures the first gay liberation march in New York City on June 28, 1970.
And I've just rejected the mold, and when I rejected the mold, I was happier.
Those first demonstrators left Greenwich Village. Block by block, the group grew larger, ultimately making it to Central Park.
There had never been such a large group of LGBT people to leave the village and march across town all the way to Central Park, 50 blocks long, to show visibility and that we were out loud and proud of who we were. In 1970, that was unusual.
Mark Siegel is a pioneer of the gay rights movement, and in 1970, he was the Grand Marshal of that very first march.
In February 1972, the National Liberation Group formed in New York City, where by 1975 they had over 5,500 members. On January 22, 1973, thanks to Roe v. Wade, the decision for abortion to become legal throughout the states became true. In 1977, San Francisco is introduced to a new character named Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk becomes the first gay politician. Harvey Milk was very involved in the community and even showed up to San Francisco's 6th Pride Parade on June 25, 1978. At this specific Pride Parade in San Francisco, this is when the rainbow flag became the national symbol of the LGBTQ+ community.
In San Francisco, now, of course, it's a few 100,000 people that come together, one of the largest festivals of LGBTQ rights in the world.
The most unorthodox politician, a homosexual, elected not in spite of it, but because of it, in a district that is largely homosexual. As a member of the Board of Supervisors, Harvey Milk championed homosexual rights.
On November 27, 1978, San Francisco Supervisor Harvey Milk was shot and killed at age 48.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
The suspect is Supervisor Dan White.
A few moments later, Dan White surrendered to the police. This is a stunned city. There are those who spoke of the charm and youthful ability of Dan White. There were many who thought someday he could have been mayor.
On October 14, 1979, everyone a part of the LGBTQ+ community and allies as well came to march and protest in Washington, D.C. Thousands attended this march for our rights. This march was inspired by Milk's assassination.
Just the beginning of deaths in the city's Castro district.
The disease that has claimed so many lives here has also come to dominate the lives of many who are not infected. The doctors, nurses, and volunteers who've been caring for people since the mysterious virus first appeared.
One of them was Dr. Lisa Capaldini.
When I worked with my first patient with AIDS, I went to sit at his bedside and to hold his hand. I thought, oh boy, is it okay to touch this man?
The first report was on June 5th, 1981.
40 years ago, the newly identified disease didn't even have a name. It was called gay cancer.
And yet most of the country doesn't know about this cancer.
Why?
Well, I think it's because it's a gay cancer.
The San Francisco AIDS Foundation began in 1983 and is still running. On Mayor Moscone and Harvey Milk's death dates, on November 27th, 1985, the San Francisco AIDS quote started. The moment it was actually released for the public to see was on October 11th, 1987. The quote has continued to grow since, and by 1988, there were thousands of patchwork panels on the quote. Here are just a few examples of some in memory. Before Bill Clinton allowed everyone, no matter their sexuality, there was one man in particular who challenged the previous ban on homosexuality in the Army. And his name was Perry Watkins.
My name is Jennifer Marshall. I'm from the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., and we're here to call on the court to allow this important debate about the future of marriage to continue in America.
I'm Shane Binney Crone, and I'm an LGBT activist. I'm hoping that the Supreme Court rules in favor of love and giving the entire nation marriage equality.
On May 17, 2004, Massachusetts becomes the first U.S. state to legalize gay marriage. As the years have gone by, hate crimes have become more and more consistent. In 2009, we were able to prosecute.
The Supreme Court has issued a decision today, but it will not end the conversation about what marriage is and why it matters for America.
It's just completely overwhelming in like the best way possible. Love just won.
Because of the Supreme Court decision that allows same-sex marriage nationwide, the community fears what would happen if this were to be overturned. In just this decade, transgender people and non-binary people, as well as those experiencing gender dysphoria, are allowed to serve in the U.S. military. Just last year, in 2022, on June 24th, it's decided that after 50 years of it being a right, abortion becomes no longer legal across the United States of America. As of right now, abortions are completely banned and restricted in Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, North Carolina, Ohio, Kentucky, Louisiana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Massachusetts.
No longer a federal constitutional right to an abortion.
To conclude, the Constitution means nothing to me except for untruthful promises. It makes me believe less in America. It reminds me that no matter how much we pretend to be free and compromisable, it's all only a disguise. We put up a show to convince outsiders that we're strong and that we're powerful, that we're everything everyone's ever dreamed of, to not believe that America is the worst place on earth, but we're not the best either. We've gotten way better over time with certain things, but we've also gotten so far behind. If anything, the Constitution is pathetic, untruthful, and pathetic promises.